But in terms of just sort of how this came to be or how we got here, it's really a synthesis of kind of a lot of my life up until now. I mean, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest and grew up listening to chamber music and hiking in the mountains and playing the violin, among other things, but those things were really important to me. And yeah, I think that's kind of my baseline in terms of like understanding of forest ecology, is like that kind of childhood understanding of like, I love the forest and trees are great and more trees is probably better, you know, and I think that was about the extent of it. And yeah, I went to music school for violin and also studied science, and who knows what kind of academic or musical track I would have ended up on, but I ended up getting a Thomas J. Watson Fellowship after I finished undergrad, which is a unique kind of fellowship where you leave the U.S. as a recently graduated senior and do your own independent project for a year while you travel. And they fund all different kinds of projects, but mine was to study the music of different mountain peoples all over the world and look for commonalities. And that's a whole another story in itself, but I did not find any sort of like sonic or rhythmic commonalities, of course, to all these different places. I spent time in the Andes in South America and the Liangshan in southwest China and Papua New Guinea and Tibet. And it was a really amazing formative year. And really what I found in common through all of that was that people had such a deep connection to their place. And their place was what was expressed in their music, and that connection with it. And that's just what music was just a lens into that connection. And everybody had music, everybody participated in music. It wasn't just the professional musicians that had chosen that profession. So that was a really big turning point for me. And I came back from that year of study, and it sort of really highlighted for me while I was gone and thinking about home and how much I loved home, and how much I loved the place I was from, but that I really had no idea how to exist in a meaningful way in it. I didn't know how to build a house from what was there or feed myself from what grew there. And I didn't know how to take care of it in return. And so I came back from that experience and kind of, it was a bit of a 180 in terms of my life path, and I just devoted myself to that type of study, of that question of how do you exist in a place. And that really is like kind of an umbrella for a lot of things that I did for the next 20 plus years. I mean, it covers moving to Northern California and learning to grow vegetables, helping run a small vegetable farm along the way, building. There was an entire sailing adventure. Just all of it, even dealing with a chronic tick-borne illness, was very much work in being part of your place. And along that whole way, I think the way that I've always addressed that question with regard to people is through music. That's always been my common thread with that. And part of that journey was helping to create the Trinity Alps Chamber Music Festival, which I've hosted for the last 12 or 13 years here in Haimpom in Trinity County. And that's just been so special to watch that development. It's just so magical to see how much the musicians enjoy coming out from largely urban lives and busy schedules and being really tied into their phones and their computers out of necessity, and coming out here where there's no cell service and we eat out of the garden, and just getting to participate in that life and swim in the river and learn what a cucumber plant looks like. And then the other side of that is seeing how much the community deeply appreciates being able to come to their tiny little community hall in the mountains and listen to chamber music of a professional caliber in a place where there's no cars driving by, you don't hear doors slamming outside or airplanes overhead. And it's just been a really, really special exchange to see that symbiosis over the years and what it means to everybody, and how people keep coming back even without, all of the pieces being there to make it absolutely fully financially worth it, or, so I've put a lot of thought into what can we do with that amazing tool, that energy that's created with that exchange, and what can we speak to, because it's a really special space that everybody gets into. So I started to think about what was kind of some of the work we could do with that container. And then through all of this is fire. Moving to Trinity County from the Pacific Northwest, the 2008 fires started less than 2 weeks after I got here. And those came within half a mile of the house. And there's been 3 other, at least, major fires that have been really close to town here, to the valley floor, in the last 15 years. And that's been just an amazing process. I mean, everything from driving through an active wildfire and realizing that fire has many faces. It's not just a roaring inferno, but it can be a quiet, creeping ground creature that does a lot of good work, that does a lot of cleaning. It sweeps the forest floor for us. And, also just seeing the large suppression campaigns come through and everything that entails. Months living in the smoke. And I think that was a big turning point, was like maybe the 3rd time that it had happened, where it was just so smoky you could hardly see for more than a month. And realizing that I had been in this state of, should I weed the garden or should I pack the car, for a long time, weeks or months. It's a little distracting. Just realizing that I had been in that state for weeks or months, and realizing that that was no way to live. And realizing that I had to tend my relationship with fire. That if I was going to live here, I needed to have a working relationship with fire. And that the relationship that I had with it wasn't functional. We weren't coexisting in a sustainable way.